Bienvenidos, señores y señores, to another episode of the Terricolas podcast. The show we're bringing you news stories to you. Walking the same ground, we all do. I'm your host, Greg, with his always awesome, and Irvin. And today, I'm sitting over here, but also we have special guests. To Irvin's left, we got Jaqueline.
This left.
How you doing?
Jackie.
Okay. Oh, you prefer Jackie? Okay, no,
Jackie,
that's fine.
yeah.
Okay. So I probably should have asked her that before.
Do you like Jaqueline?
Jacqueline is like my official name.
Dang.
Like when I want to sound sophisticated.
Oh,
Well, you are sophisticated.
Jacqueline is like your author name, no?
Yeah.
Jaqueline C. Núñez.
My author
Jacqueline.
name,
Jacqueline to the
my
front desk,
name
please.
when I'm in trouble.
Jacqueline to the front desk, please.
You forgot to turn off your headlights, Jacqueline. Jacqueline to the front desk, please. Jacqueline.
All
So, Jacqueline,
thank you for
thank you for being here.
Yeah, hell yeah. She got
for
lost.
having me. Yeah, I did
She's
get
the
lost.
second person that gets lost to get in here.
I think you're the most excited to be here, actually.
Really?
We were like, I mean, okay, we've had excited guests, but you were very passionate about doing something like this, right?
Yeah, I'm
Why-
very enthusiastic.
Hey, can you hold this a
That's
little
good.
bit?
Why is
Closer to me? Okay.
But why was this one of your goals? Why was this like? This is something I have to cross off.
I just think it's like super cool, like to be on a podcast and be able to like share with people and
Share thoughts.
you know what I mean?
Do you listen to a lot of podcasts?
I do listen to a lot of podcasts.
Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, I listen to this guy. His name's like Joko Willen.
Oh,
something like
Jocko,
that.
yeah.
He's super awesome. I listen to him when I hike.
Okay.
Like he gives me like
The
motivation.
Navy SEAL, no?
Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I listen to like some local ones. There's like this guy on my Instagram that just started a podcast.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to like pronounce the podcast. It's
Do
pretty
It's a
your
local one.
try your best.
It's like athleisure or something. It's like an athletic podcast.
Athleisure?
Yeah. something
Athleisure?
like
That sounds familiar. I'm not
that.
gonna lie.
Athleisure, yeah.
So
An
what,
athlete that
what is
is.
it like? You lay down while working out or something?
Athleisure.
Athletic leisure.
It's not as bad.
Yeah,
as
you work
Terricolas.
out as you leave or whatever the.
That's your leisure.
Yeah, I'm leisure.
Oscar Leisure, you selling cars now? Okay.
Do you listen to? Because since you're a writer, do you listen to story podcasts?
I don't.
No?
I don't know.
'Cause there's some pretty cool ones where like scary stories. And then
I listen
like,
to a lot of
stories.
podcasts that are like that talk about like emotional intelligence and like.
I love that
kinda
kind of stuff.
you know? Yeah.
It's like in control of your emotions, right?
Yeah.
Being able to read other people's emotions.
Yeah, like being able to manage through like the bullshit of life, basically.
You can do that. Can you read people's emotions?
I'm pretty good at like catching things, but I know there's people that can like read them and then like will call you out. Like, why are you sad? Tell me what's wrong.
Yeah.
I just kind of like,
It's like,
I'm like, they're a little sad today.
estás llorando.
Oh, yeah. No. Déjalo. Déjalo en paz. He's depressed.
You wanna? Can we jump right into the book? The book.
Sure, yeah.
I was interested in that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Why you look at me?
It's because Greg's sick. Greg,
you
just
do
to the
it.
audience,
Yeah,
Greg
you
is
guys
not
do.
himself today, so I have to do the work of
I
myself and
usually
Greg.
don't talk that much anyway.
What you have?
More than anything, written 2 fucking books.
Yeah,
How
that's
old
pretty
are
dope.
you, Jacqueline?
I'm
Jackie.
22.
22. You're 22.
But
You've already written 2 books.
2 books.
When did you write these books?
My first book, I was 19.
You wrote.
Yeah,
wrote
I
the
was
first one.
straight out of
Which one was
high
the first
school.
one?
Tragically Beautiful.
Tragically Beautiful.
Oh, I want to start at the very beginning.
Okay.
Damn.
So you were born, right?
I was born.
So-
9 pounds. 2 months premature. Just kidding.
God damn.
Well, I actually did have like that question. Can I ask the question?
Yes.
All right.
Just cover your mouth while you do it, please.
Damn. Okay, we're like
sick-ass
jumping.
virus.
We're jumping.
So I know. You mentioned before that it was your mom who kind of inspired you to write. Right? So you were 15, and she gave you this journal until you write stuff down. So was there a transition, or did you always feel like, as you were writing these personal things in your journal, like you were eventually gonna want to share it? Was there a transition, or?
Yeah, there was a transition. It wasn't always like, I didn't wake up at 15 and I was like, oh, I'm going to go write a book.
Yeah.
You know, she had given me the journal because I was struggling a lot, like emotionally. You know, as like a teenager, I feel like they all go through like this weird transition.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I was not transitioning very well. So she like gave me this journal, and I've never been very expressive, especially to my family. So she's like, you know, just write all your thoughts down, you know, write what you're thinking. And then it was about when I was like 16, 17. We went through like this really hard time as a family. You know, we had like lost everything. We moved to California. We literally had nothing. I mean, we were living out of like duffel bags, you know?
Wow.
And it was during this time where I really had to like ground myself. And that's when I was like, you know what, one day I'm going to write a book. Like, I think this will be a kick-ass story. Like, lived in the fields of California and, you know.
It's a cool story.
Yeah, and then, well, we came back. And it was always like a thing I would say, you know, like to my high school friends and stuff. I would like jokingly say, you know, one day I'm going to write a book. You know, like make sure you guys stay in contact with me because one day before I die, I'm going to write a book. And then when I turned 19, I had just lost like my grandpa. I went through like this weird phase in my life. I always go through like weird phases where like, yeah, they're like really weird. Like phases where I look back, I'm like, what the fuck were you doing? like what was going on?
Basically every day of mine.
You know, I'm
She's
like,
gonna look back at this moment and be like,
What the fuck was I doing there?
I'm like, what was going on here? So when I turned 19, I had just lost my grandpa like during this phase. I was like really close to him. And in that same month, I literally moved out of my parents' house, bought a new car. I left to San Antonio, like Austin area, like 4 times. And I think it was like my coping, you know, like one day I was driving and I was like in the hood, you know, like Lower Valley hood.
Oh,
and I
shit.
saw like this sign that said like move-in specials. I was like, hey, let me stop and let me talk to this apartment complex. And literally like within an hour, I had dropped my down payment, my first month of rent, and I had already signed the lease. And
Oh,
then I
shit.
called my mom and I was like, hey mom, like,
got an
you
apartment.
want to come check this out? So she went during her lunch and she was just like, what the, you know, like what's going on? But she didn't stop me. She was like, okay, like if this is what you want.
Yeah.
The next week I had like pulled out like a 2017 Jeep Cherokee.
Oh, shit.
Like,
Those are
yeah,
nice.
like I was really going through it, you know, like I was just making like
Big
weird,
moves.
you know, weird decisions.
Big
But
decision.
why? What was the base of these decisions? Like, why do you think you're making these decisions? What were you trying to like feel something?
You're just trying to be independent.
I think so. I think, you know, like, because I feel like 18, 19, even like your early 20s, you're going through this like transition where you're tired of your parents telling you what to do.
Right.
You know, and I was like really going through like this whole like, I want to be independent, I want to live on my own. And then that huge thing happened like with my grandpa. And even though like it was a weird transition, it was like my place, you know, like my solitude. After work, I could go and literally just like shut out the world, you know.
So your grandpa played a big part in your life. Like, did he like rear you?
Yeah,
towards
he
decision-making
played
and
like a
everything?
huge part. He's like a second dad. You know, like with my dad, he like raised me. So when everything happened, it created like a weird shift. You know, so all these like weird things started happening, and I started writing. That's when the first book started kind of manifesting itself. I started writing.
What
And
was your process like? How would you get home from work? Just bust out the typewriter,
typewriter.
start typing. How was it?
The process itself was like, I would only do it when I felt. You know, I know that sounds weird, but it's because I was going through like this phase of grieving. So I would go days feeling numb. And then there was days where I felt everything. So on those days, I would just like make myself coffee, sit down. And I'm like, okay, like we're just going to jot this down. You know, this is coming to my head. Like, do, 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 do.
And did you have any training in writing? Like, did you take like writing classes or anything?
No, I didn't.
No, you just jumped right in.
Yeah, I just started
just-
typing. Yeah.
How would you have like rough? I'll specific. I'm trying to write a book as well. Do you have like a bunch of rough drafts and stuff, and then you would just?
For the first one, I didn't. I didn't have any like rough drafts.
Yeah.
It was just very like, literally just as it came out.
Just from the heart.
Yeah.
Man, that's dope. That's nice.
Whatever I was feeling, I type it.
Yeah. Okay. And then continue.
And then, so then after that, you know, I started the whole writing process. I ended up moving back in with my parents. You know, like obviously at 19, I thought I was invincible. So I moved back in. I gave back the Jeep Cherokee. I settled with a 2007 Pontiac.
That's still pretty good.
And then after that, I kind of like, it was kind of like after, you know, like you had to clean your shit up. You know, I made like all this desmadre.
Yeah.
And then I had to like clean my shit up. So the months after that, it was just literally like trying to get my life back together, which was really hard because I had created like a big like chaos with all my decisions and, you know, everything that I was going through. That same year, I had dropped out of college at UTEP. So when I wanted to go back, I had to pay like this huge amount of money. And they're like, you can't come back unless you pay it and, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
So I figured like, okay, like if I write a book and people buy it, I can pay off tuition.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay, you're hustling
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So, during that time, I had started up with my photography. I started doing like photo shoots, graduation shoots and stuff. And then I published my book, and all that money went towards UTEP
Nice.
just to pay off like my tuition to go
what
back
is
to
that?
school.
What is that? How do you? I've never talked to someone who's published a book. How do you even go about doing something like that?
There's like different ways you can go. I went the self-publishing way. So there's actually like Amazon lets you self-publish.
Okay.
The only difference is like with self-publishing, you have to advertise yourself.
Oh, okay.
Whereas like if you do it through like a firm, then you have like the publisher, you have the the person that advertises.
Everything comes in the packet.
Yeah.
So I never recommend anybody to do that unless you like make bank because it's really expensive.
Really?
Yeah, like you have to pay a lot for them just to put your book out like on Barnes and Noble, and you don't really even make like much profit. Like you're literally doing it just because you love writing.
It reminds me of like the music industry. How nowadays you can just put your own music on
bump it out.
iTunes.
Yeah,
Bump
you
it.
can just
So
like
now-
publish it.
And then with the music companies, they kind of try and fuck you a little bit, you know? Like they'll
yeah,
try
you have to pay like a lot. I mean, when
Yeah.
I like looked into it, I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, and then you have to pay royalties, right?
Yeah.
And all this little stuff. It sucks. Well, music labels are kind of going downhill. And then with the streaming services,
Yeah.
it'd be cool to have
Everything's
streaming.
for free and whatnot. When you used to be able to have to pay for everything.
Yeah.
Like the CDs and
Yeah.
the downloads and everything.
Is there anything like that for books? Like where you just have access to all these books?
Yeah, actually, Kindle.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
And you can just...
So when I published it on Amazon like automatically made it like a Kindle version so people could get it for free.
Oh shit.
Yeah, just a lot of people don't know that, and I wouldn't say that because I need to pay tuition, So I was like no,
But-
you should
but
just
now-
get the copy. Like I'll sign it.
But now,
yeah.
but now, I mean, we can get it through the Kindle, right?
Yeah, it's free. Like you just download it and it just.
That's crazy. So this is pretty fresh because you're 22. This happened when you were 19. 19, 20, 21.
22.
That's like
Yeah.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. You remind me a
That's
little bit...
fucking
She reminds me a
crazy.
little bit of Alex, how she was also 22. I don't know if you saw her last episode.
Oh yeah, yeah,
22?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
How now, I don't know if it's because of technology or whatever, but younger people have access to be able to live their dream. to
Dude,
be able to
access
do something.
to credit and she was getting cars and apartments really young. So for you to be able to do that at a really young age and like I don't want to say mess up, but go through that process,
Yeah.
and like, okay, this didn't work. The next time I try it, it's gonna be better.
Oh yeah.
So going
Definitely.
through the ringer really young is way better than trying to go through the ringer like
Yeah.
in your 25,
Yeah.
25, 26. 'Cause I didn't get my first apartment until 24, 25. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that process of like failing
Yeah.
and then
You just
perfecting
learn.
it, it's better when it starts at a young age.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it's getting better. It's
Yeah.
getting better. But 22, holy shit.
That's crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Can we jump back to the actual story, right? So where you were being inspired. Because
Okay.
the book is mainly about your time spent in California.
Yeah. Well, the first one, it's actually like just like a collection of poems.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So honestly, my first book, I feel like it's very like superficial, very surface. Like when I read it later, because I don't have a copy. Like myself, I didn't buy a copy. When I read it, because my parents had bought a copy and stuff, it was just like I was holding a lot back. Even though I was writing and I did want to send out this message, there was still a lot that I was kind of holding in.
Yeah.
So it was very like surface. Like when I read it later, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like,
Yeah.
like
So
you
on
could
your
do
second,
so much better.
On your second one, you went more into depth.
Yeah, my second one, it's actually put into two parts.
Okay.
The first part does talk about California. It talks about our time out there. It talks about the death of my grandfather. It talks about the death of my sister back in 2007. It talks about like what it was like living in my home after that.
Yeah.
The way my parents coped, the way I had to cope. I'm the oldest of five.
Okay, five.
Five,
Wow.
yeah.
So you have four sisters, three
I have
brothers,
3 sisters and 1 brother.
3 sisters, 1 brother,
Yeah.
and yourself.
And myself.
And then so in 2007. Do you want to go? Do you want to go into
Yeah,
that?
I mean, yeah, we can talk about it. Yeah.
How did your sister pass away?
Actually, I mean, it was like weird from what my mom has told me. It was just like a lot of mix of like medical issues, like just a whole lot of mix. She's a sister after me, so she's the second oldest.
Okay.
When she passed away, she was 7 and I was 9.
Oh, so
Yeah.
you were kind of
yeah,
young.
I was really young, during the
So
time.
you wouldn't have been able to understand it as much as like your parents, having to lose a child.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but you would have been. It was more like, well,
Yeah.
you were kind of young.
Yeah, I was really young. Growing up, my parents did put a lot of like responsibility on me. So even after like that whole, that's what I talk about in my second book. Like after that whole, when everything happened, my parents, they were really young. They had us really young, and they kind of went into like their own world, And then I felt like I had to kind of, be like mama hen to my brother and my other sister, So I do remember like in my childhood, and I do talk about it in my book, that we spent a lot of time like alone, just me and them. My mom kind of like dug into work. My dad kind of did his own thing. And even though they were there, like to provide a home and everything, it's like emotionally and mentally they weren't,
Okay.
I mean, it's tough, having to go and do all this stuff throughout the day, and then you get home and it's like,
Be a
man, I
mom and
still
dad.
have to. I
Yeah.
have a lot of respect for people who do that, who have these full-time jobs, maybe are still going to school as well, and then they still have
Come
kids.
home
It's
and be
like,
a mom and dad,
damn,
yeah.
how do you?
Yeah, I mean, like during that time, my parents were really young. I think my mom was like 24, 25. My dad was like 27. So, I mean, if you think about it, like at that time, like even with someone that doesn't have kids, like they're still trying to get their shit together,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, no kidding.
and they
Like
had
us
like a
did.
whole, a trail behind them,
Oh, wow.
and my mom was a full-time student. She was going to, to college. She was working, full-time hours at UMC. So she worked like the graveyard. She worked 7 days out of the week. My dad was working 2-3 jobs at a time if he had to. So we did spend a lot of time alone. So I did talk about that in my second book. I talk about that. I talk about my grandpa's death. I talk about like my sexual assault that happened in
Oh my
2016.
God.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
You've
yeah.
been
After
through a lot of
graduation.
stuff.
Yeah,
In high school?
in high school. Yeah, it
Okay.
happened
So
after
when you
high school.
graduated? Okay. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Let's just take it one step at a time.
What? We're rolling now. We're rolling.
No, I do want to talk
man.
about that. Just real quick. Just I don't want to move too forward because there was some things that she said that
We're
I just
rolling,
want to jump. I just want to jump into real quick. Because you had said about your sister, she had health complications since she was born already.
yeah.
And then before that, you had mentioned how your first poem book was very superficial, right?
Right.
Would you say that that's one of the most important things? One of the most important things for an artist, or I don't know if entertainers, but anybody who's trying to have people pay attention to their work, that they be genuine and be able to express themselves without any anything stopping them. You know what I mean? Like whether it's embarrassment or shame or not being able to 100% show what they went through. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that is really important because, even though a lot of people did buy my book and I was supported a lot, I feel like they still didn't really get a glimpse
Like
of
the
what I
100%.
was,
Yeah.
like
So
what
do
I
you think
could
was
really offer.
What do you think was holding you back from really just like spilling your soul into this?
I think it was just the timing.
Okay.
Like the whole, like, I was in a time where I was just going through like this whole motion of grief.
Yeah.
So those days that I felt really numb, I held back a lot. And then the days that I did feel, it was like I felt, but I didn't know how to like articulate my thoughts correctly.
There you go.
You know what I mean? I didn't know how to really
Yeah.
articulate like what I was
Yeah.
feeling, and it was
You're
just
too
kind of like
young.
spitting everything
Yeah,
out.
yeah. You're too young. I feel like when you're at that age, you can't really put together your emotions, and at that age, you feel like you know everything.
Yeah.
So
you
you-
feel like invincible.
Yeah, so you don't really, like she said, I mean, articulate good sentences and everything.
And I'm sure there's also these like gifted people who at the age of 18, 19 can just somehow write something that represents how they're feeling. Like these
Jaqueline.
famous like, do you have any writers that you admire?
There's a few. There's a lot actually. I read a lot of like psychology, philosophy, business.
Okay.
As far as like poetry, R.H. Sin is one of my favorites.
All right. And are they young? Most of the people, like, did they
No,
start
he's
off young?
actually he's older. He started
Okay.
off like mid-20s maybe.
So would you say it takes people a little while for them to be able to really
hone that skill.
Yeah, be able to put their emotions into words.
I really think so, because when you're younger, again, like you're still trying to like manage through it, and I've read a lot of like psychology books, and psychologically speaking, you're just not there yet at that age, and that's okay. I feel like a lot of younger teens, or even when you get to like your young adults, people struggle a lot with like depression and anxiety. And you see it all over social media all the time. You know, they're always taking like mental health days and stuff like that. But it's because we're just in a stage where we're really trying to understand what we're feeling and how to kind of manage through it.
And you don't even know what
You
the
know.
hell you're
Well, it's
feeling. You're
'cause-
like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Why am I
like-
feeling
There's
this?
so much shit happening
Yeah.
at such a high pace
Lo, todas las hormonas.
that
You're
it's
over here
hard.
like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up, man.
And then, like depression. Like you're all sad and horny and
It's
happy and like at the same time.
And the
you're
same
like, what
day,
the fuck?
in the same day within the same hour.
Just all these emotions.
It's because everything's like that. Everything's
Yeah.
like that.
All the
And when we were growing up, it was really slow. Everything was really like, this is the time frame. This is the time frame. You get it like this. You get it like this. And now it's like you can have a house and everything by the age of 18.
Yeah, and I think it has a lot to do with like our engagement with social media.
Yeah.
You know, like you get on social media and you see like all these young adults or teenagers that have their shit together, and then you kind of look at yourself and you're like,
Well,
oh,
we would want to put that in
well,
quotations.
well,
know
what
what?
about me?
Because that's
Yeah,
what it- that's
you
what
know,
it's
that's what
portrayed.
it's portraying. You know,
As much as like we might not want to accept that, like we're kind of another generation, and like we're what, like 5-6 years.
Yeah,
And
we're
in
5
internet
apart,
years, that's like
6
12
apart.
years, 13.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have, like, we kind of grew up normal. We didn't have Instagram to have to look at. You
Well,
know?
Instagram wasn't around till 2010.
Yeah,
I was
so-
barely graduating from high school.
So we still had the opportunity to be able to kind of find ourselves without, I mean, not exactly, but to not have that type of pressure where it's like, damn, look at Carlitos, he's got his shit together. Like, he already has a
But
house.
even then, I didn't even have an Instagram till 2014,
Yeah.
2015.
And how old were we at that time?
I was already 23 or 24.
23. You
Yeah.
see, like, at that time, you already kind of at least have an idea of,
I was an idiot. I didn't know. Yeah. I was just doing my
like,
own
these
thing.
newer generations are having to deal with social media just earlier and earlier in their
earlier,
lives.
yeah.
Like when, like in social media, when do you think was it in your life?
I mean, social media. I got my Twitter when I was like in 7th grade.
7th grade.
Oh, shit.
How old are you
I
at
was
7th
like
grade?
14.
14. The like developmental years, dude.
Yeah, like those
You
years that are
already getting
so
molded
vital.
by Twitter.
You know, yeah. I was already, you know,
And Twitter's
seeing
a
all
mean
this.
place.
Yeah, Twitter can be
Twitter's very
mean.
open.
up place.
It's
You only
very
have a-
Super
open.
mean.
You only have a few words, so you got to be as mean as possible as soon as possible.
And there's no
Yeah.
filter like porn,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude.
bad word, everything's
Yeah,
on there. It's like the
everything's on
Wild
Twitter.
West. Like
Yeah.
you will not get taken down. Like
Yeah.
you won't.
You condense your meanness into one fucking thing. It's like, rather than soften the blow, it's like, nah, just fuck you, bro.
But that's, I mean, I found it really really inspiring that you're already on your way, just like Alex.
Yeah.
You guys are very young and you guys are figuring shit out already, and you guys are I like to view it this way. You guys built something, but I mean, it wasn't such a solid foundation because you guys are barely starting.
Yeah.
So it kind of crumbled, but
there's a
here you guys are
foundation.
coming back.
Yeah.
Because you know, you published your book, you put off your school, so now these bricks are being laid one by one instead of like rushing it, like, oh, the house, the car, blah blah blah. But they're not really laid down right, and
Right.
these are laid down like you publish your book to be able to pay off your school, and now you're in school. Are you finished or are you still going?
I'm still going to school.
So you're still going. So that brick, you're still like putting on the mortar
Yeah,
and everything
yeah,
on
yeah.
that brick, but it's one by one, and
Yeah.
I find that really beautiful. That's awesome.
You learn from your mistakes at an early age.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
good.
Definitely.
That's really good. Yeah.
Okay, should we go back?
yeah. It's because she was on a roll, man. She was,
I
she was,
didn't want.
True, you
sometimes-
don't wanna move too
Sometimes
far.
we're talking about stuff and it's like, oh, I still wanted to touch up.
Whoa.
Slow down. We should have like a button or something. Like,
Okay.
okay, so
So we were talking about you had an incident
Mm-hmm.
what was it?
2016.
2016.
Mm-hmm.
So in 2016, what happened?
It was actually the week after I graduated.
The week after you
That week,
graduated.
actually. It was
Wow.
like that. You know, like after you graduate, you have like that week after where you can just like party your ass off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
remember.
That week.
So it was by one of your fellow students, or
Yeah, well, we didn't go to school together, but
Okay.
me and him were actually really close. We used to gym together. You know,
Okay.
we played like the same sports in high school, so we would always go to the gym. Like we were pretty close, you know.
Okay.
And then he just got really drunk. Not an excuse,
Yeah.
but you know, things happened,
Okay.
escalated,
yeah.
and
But it was unwanted on your end.
yeah. I kept saying no, but it just kind of happened.
Mm.
Yeah.
Fuck. And then what happened after that? I mean, were you able to talk to him? Did he talk to you, or he just kind of left?
Well, after that, I kind of like went MIA. You know, I kind of fell off the face for a
Yeah.
little bit. You know, I was trying to like
Process it.
process, yeah, you know, what really happened. I ran into him at EP Fitness. Reason I don't go to that gym. I ran into him and he just kind of like snarked at me. You know, like it was just like a weird interaction. So then after that, I had messaged him like on Instagram, and he was just like, "No, like you know, you wanted it," and like,
Oh,
yeah, like
shit.
he was just very like condescending about it. So I just completely blocked him on everything, and I never really like touched base on it again. But I did go through like the motions of it, you know, like I felt like after that had happened, I felt like dirty. You know, like
Yeah.
I was really stripped from like my womanhood.
Yeah, like
You
know
your
what I mean?
childhood
Like-
innocence also maybe.
Yeah, like, and it was just like, oh, like this sucks. You know, that was also like the first time I had been with like a guy.
Yeah.
Fucking
You know,
asshole.
so it sucked. It really
Fucking
did suck.
asshole.
You know, I was like, wow.
If you're watching this, you're a piece of shit. You don't do that,
He
man.
is,
You
he is,
just
yeah.
Not too long ago, I had to go to jury duty, and the case was sexual assault for that. And you know, during the selection process, you know how they ask a lot of questions, like, "Have you ever done this?" And one of the questions that the lawyers asked was, "Do any of you have family, or do any of you know anybody who has had sexual assault?" And it's surprising the number of people that raise their hand. I don't know if they're trying to get a jury duty, but still, like, you're like, damn, really? Like that much? All these people either know of somebody or have been. So it's surprising to see how common it is.
Yeah, it's actually really common. When it happened, I felt like it was still kind of like under the rug. So I didn't really, you know, I didn't talk about it. I've never really shared anything about it until like maybe the last year.
Yeah.
I've become more open like with talking about it. I do know like on Twitter in the last year or two, there's been like a movement, you know, like there's just always people on there that's always like, you know what, like this happened to me and like it needs to be said.
I need to say it.
You know,
put it
like
out there.
it's happening so often, like it needs to be known that this is
Yeah.
what's going on.
Man, I just think that's stupid and idiotic for a man to feel like they're on the green light once they're drunk and
Because that situation happens a lot.
Yeah.
When there's alcohol involved, and it's like, well, then did she say yes? Did she want it? Like, well, no, what she said. You know what I mean? So, from your experience, when you've been sharing this, do you believe people are like they doubt you, or like are they on your side? Are they on his? What's been your most common reception? When you speak of
I've
it?
never talked about it out loud. Like people don't know who the person is, except for my parents.
Okay.
About like 2 years ago, I was just going through another like weird phase in my life.
Yeah.
I was going through like this weird slope of like, it had been like a year or so after my grandpa passed away, and it was like that aftermath grief of like, you know, just life was just kind of falling on me again. And I was going through like a lot of anxiety and stuff. At first, I thought it was my workplace. You know, being a server at the time, I was a server, so it was like really stressful. I was
where
like,
were you
well,
server
maybe-
at?
At the West
I was
Texas.
I was West Texas, and I worked at Cheddar's for like 3 years.
Yum, I love cheddar.
Yeah.
Both excellent
I
restaurants.
was a server there. And I was having like these crazy anxiety attacks. One time I had like this really bad anxiety attack. I had to be rushed to the ER. And my parents were just kind of like, at that point, they're like, what the fuck's going on? You know, like what's wrong with you? You know, they wouldn't really see me. I was never really home. I was always like partying and out. And that's when I like came out to them about it. I was like, you know, I've been struggling with this since I've graduated. I'm just trying to manage through it. I just don't know how. Like, and my parents just wanted to go like full on, like, let's press charges, like, let's take him to court, like, you know, like.
So it just kind of like festered inside of you, and it
Yeah, it just literally really like
Fermented.
made like its own home.
Just. Do you think you
know?
were trying to
Shit.
suppress
I was
initially? Like,
yeah.
oh, this isn't bad.
This
Like,
didn't
never,
happen,
it's not a
yeah.
big deal. Or
This
something.
happens,
And then it's just like
yeah.
trying to
Yeah,
push the, and
you
then
know,
it's
like afterwards, I kind of like went through it, and I used to hate like feeling like
dirty,
emotion,
like,
you
yeah.
know, like
Oh,
so
okay.
I would suppress a lot of what I
Yeah.
felt. And I was already going through so much that I was like, no, like this never happened. Like, you know, or I would question myself, like, did I want it to happen? You know,
Yeah.
like, you know, maybe it's what I was wearing that day, or maybe I shouldn't have
yeah.
worn like those shorts.
That's
or,
pretty much,
you know,
yeah.
like,
Have
What-
you ever spoken to anybody else who's been a victim of something like this?
I haven't
No?
actually. No, I haven't.
Because I don't know if those are common feelings, like to try coping mechanisms, you know, maybe to initially like deny, you know, like no, or and then maybe to like you're saying, like, oh, maybe I
Try and
didn't
blame
want it
yourself.
or so, yeah,
Yeah. I went through like those weird, I would tell myself like, even when I had spoken to my mom about it, I told her like, well, maybe it's, what I was wearing. Maybe I shouldn't have worn those shorts.
Yeah.
Or maybe I shouldn't have worn like the tank top with the baseball jersey. Like maybe it's like, maybe I came off too like, flirtatious,
Yeah.
or maybe I should have just like stepped away, or like,
That's crazy
maybe
to
they're
have
just,
those thoughts.
yeah, like, and my mom was the one, she's a psychology major. So she's like, no, like, it wasn't your fault. Like, it doesn't matter what you're wearing. It doesn't matter, where you were. It doesn't matter anything. Like, a man shouldn't have taken control of you like that.
Yeah.
Like, you have a say. I was like, okay, like, but I did struggle with those thoughts for like a really long time.
And not to dive too deep into it, but do you recall saying no at any point?
Yeah, I did say it for like a good 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, no, like,
Because-
I tried getting out of the car. He locked the door.
Oh my, that's
Yeah, like, it was like a whole, like,
Yeah.
like,
because like that was a topic they went over during that day. It's like consent, and it's like consent can be withdrawn at any moment during the sexual act. Like from the beginning to the end, if you say no, that's already you're denying consent, and that's already in breach of the law. At that point, you can. Did you sue or did you take it to court?
I didn't. My parents wanted to. They wanted to like just go
Or
full
press
on.
charges,
like,
yeah.
they wanted to press charges and everything. I told them I didn't want to because I didn't want to go through that. And a lot of people, when I have, mentioned it to like friends, or like when I've talked about it openly, people have told me like, no, well, you need to like make a stand. And, and I completely understand that. But for me, myself, I felt like I was able to heal and get over it myself. I didn't want to have to go through sitting in a court and facing it and facing him and having to relive those moments that I didn't want to,
And
so.
I would imagine, I don't think that's something uncommon to other people. I feel like other people would feel similar to you. Like, I don't want to relive this shit. Like, why do I want to be in the same room as this guy or whatever? I think the reason people would try and push you to maybe do something is just to protect other people from it happening to them. You know what I mean? Like, this guy needs to be taken off the streets or be taught a lesson or something like that.
Well, I mean, it's because they haven't been through it, and they don't know what it's like the whole situation.
Yeah.
So for them, it's like a real like authoritative, like, yeah, do it.
Yeah.
But like you said,
Like, it's easy for them to
yeah,
say.
it's easy for them to say, but it's your choice in the end. And I mean, at this point, I feel like you already moved on.
Yeah.
And this guy doesn't really have a say in your life and what you do and who your partners are, or and if it's gonna affect you with that partner. Like, he doesn't have a say in that anymore. He doesn't live in your mind anymore at this point.
Yeah, at this point, I feel like that's why I'm so open with it. It's because I feel like I've
Good.
really healed from it.
Yeah,
you know,
good,
and
good.
I've really moved forward past that, and it no longer, I'm no longer a victim to it.
Yeah,
he no
good.
longer controls me, and I don't have, I feel because even after something happens to you, if you continue to like live by that trauma, it's like you're giving that person that control.
Yeah, definitely.
And he controlled me for like a really long time. So now that I'm able to like talk about it and even write about it, in my second book, when I wrote about it, it was one of those things where I had to resurface it. I cried for like a week, and then I went back to the book, like.
Yeah, but now it's on paper, So now that thought and that emotion is on paper, is written down. So it gets to live in the book, It
Yeah.
gets to live in there.
No
It
longer
doesn't
in
live in
me.
your head
Yeah.
anymore.
Was
That's
that
beautiful.
in itself a form of therapy, writing about it?
It was actually that second book. It helps me a lot. I mean, that second book really impacted me. Like I talked about stuff and I wrote about stuff that I had never talked about. That was kind of like, I like to say it was like boxes packed in my attic.
Okay. Yeah.
I kind of threw them up there. When I had to write that book, I kind of had to go up there and unpack them.
Yeah.
And go box by box by box and really dig into what I was feeling, and I had to really take myself back to those moments to be able to write about it.
But you already cleaned these boxes out.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
threw
my
some of that
attic
shit
is
out. And
nice and polished
good.
now.
Good.
Did
You
you know-
sweeped it up,
Did you
Took
know
the
you
car.
wanted to talk about this before you came in? Is this something you wanted to talk about?
No, I mean, no, but I had planned for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I did
because I was like,
notice-
man, like if they ask me questions, like I'm just gonna be like
'Cause-
raw to my audience,
Good.
like.
When you walked in here like you had a mission.
You're on a mission.
I was on a
No
mission.
I was like,
kidding.
yeah, like, we need to shake hands. She was like, I'm fucking ready. Let's
I'm
do
not
this.
gonna lie. I was getting into like a wrestling stand. I was like, órale pues. Get down.
Like, okay, are you a little more relaxed?
Yeah, more
Okay.
relaxed. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah,
But
you
thank you for
came in.
sharing, of course. Like,
Yeah,
you jumped in right away. It usually takes people like 45 minutes to.
No, I mean it's because she's already written it down and she's a writer. So on her first book, she didn't open. Second book, open more, and now it's gonna get easier and easier. Are you thinking about writing more books?
Yeah, I'm thinking
Yeah.
about writing a third one.
A third one?
Yeah. Not poetry.
Okay.
Not really. Not really about myself. More, I'm trying to touch on like the whole emotional intelligence, learning to manage through your emotions, and I feel like sometimes life can really suck. And you have to learn to embrace that suck and just keep moving forward,
Perseverance?
regardless of it. You know
I
what I
love
mean?
that word. That word has been in my mind for the past
Perseverance.
weeks. Like perseverance. It's
Perseverance.
just
It can be good and it can be bad. Cause
like
if a girl say no,
oh my god.
don't fucking persevere.
No, but yeah, that word has just been like in my mind, just rotating over and over because I've been trying to move to the next phase of my life, and I feel like there's been roadblocks over and over again, and these roadblocks would sometimes get me down, and I'd be like, oh man. But I realize now, if you stay perseverant, eventually
it's gonna happen.
It'll work
You
out.
just put in the work. Just put
Yeah.
in the work, and it's gonna
Just
happen.
fucking persevere, dude. And it's really awesome. Like a couple of days ago, Joey Diaz, you know how Joey Diaz always reaches
Yeah,
out to homies. He calls. You know who Joey Diaz is?
Yeah.
Yeah. He reaches out to friends, and I was like, I'm gonna do a little Joey Diaz today, because I had time. Cindy was working, and I was like, well, I'm just chilling here at the house. I was like, let me reach out to all my contacts and then just say hi to everybody, see how they're doing. So I was like, okay, maybe a few of them will text back. I don't know. So I just went individual contact through individual, just saying, hey, how you doing? Hope you're having a good day. Like everything's good. Almost like 95% of the people responded back, and it was a beautiful thing to see how open they were with me, and a lot of them shared their struggles, things that they're going through right now, successes that they're going through, aspirations that they have. Someone told me like, oh dude, I didn't get this job, and then the next day he's like, dude, I got another job. I'm super excited. I was like, fuck yeah.
That's
Like,
awesome.
I'm happy for them, and then other friends out of town who are like, dude, I'm struggling like with certain things, and it's a beautiful feeling to know that you're not the only one going through this process. Like, you imagine everybody's having a great time. Like, oh, fuck, I'm the only one who's over here still struggling, trying to fucking get a job and do it.
Yeah.
And then you realize, nah, dude, everybody's going through their own little struggle. Like, everybody's
Everybody's their own ecosystem, man.
yeah, everybody's trying to figure their shit out. And it's just, we're all just here to support each other. I mean, hopefully, that's the goal for me, at least. That's the type of person I want to be. Just support each other and try and be there.
Yeah,
And,
as much as you can.
Yeah.
Like, how you doing?
Yeah,
Hope you
even
hope you're
something
feeling
small,
better.
dude, yeah.
Do you ever trip on, like, when you see cars driving by and you see a person and like, I wonder where that person's going, or what's he
like
going
what's
through?
their
What's his story?
days like?
People
Like
just look
What,
pissed.
what are you doing?
Emputados, nomás.
Pararlo, like stop him. Hey,
Yeah.
you want to do a podcast?
We actually want to interview a homeless. That'd be fun.
Oh
Just to see
yeah,
what they've been through. Greg says he has a friend.
scrub him down.
Yeah.
How you hanging
Scrub
in?
him
You
down.
hanging in there again?
Scrub him down. No, wait, no.
Again, Greg is disgusting.
Yeah,
He's
Greg
sick
is.
right now.
Yeah, he's kind of sick.
I'm good.
Look at him. If he passes out, we'll help you out after the podcast.
So you like to
Later.
hike a lot,
I do like to hike a lot. Yeah.
dude. Which one's your favorite trail?
Oh, that's so hard.
Coleman?
Here in El Paso, I would want to say probably the Franklin.
Okay.
You like the Franklin?
Mountains. Yeah, it's a super hard trail. I mean, it's like literally. It's just like really steep. So when I'm up there, I'm just like sweating. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
How serious do you take your hiking? You got all the gear. You take sandwiches up there. Everything.
Damn.
I don't take sandwiches. I take like Cliff Bars.
Okay,
Or like
yeah.
of course I
That's
take
probably
like
more
my
professional.
water.
Then a sandwich.
You're over here sacando el pan de bolillo. Échale el aguacate.
Bologna, cheese.
No, barbacoa. Damn, bro.
It's because that's what I want to do with Cindy. That's me and Cindy's little
Don't you do
Valentine
barbacoas?
tradition. We hike up and then we have like sandwiches up there.
Oh, okay, I was like, you guys have barbacoa sandwiches?
That's a little hard.
Colitas de pavo?
So you like that trail a lot? It's a
Yeah,
good
that's
trail.
one of my favorite trails here. I've also hiked in Las Cruces.
Okay.
How's it up there?
So it's really nice. It's like really different. There's a trail out there called Dripping Springs, and it's just like really fresh and green. And I mean,
Nice.
you wouldn't even think it's New Mexico.
You ever been to McKittrick Canyon?
I haven't. Where is
You
it?
should try. It's like 2 hours from here. Just Google it. It's super nice. Like during the fall, when all the trees are changing colors and everything. There's so many trees in that area because there's like a little what do you call it, like a little stream or something?
Yeah.
Like that. So
Okay.
just all the colorful trees around the stream, and you're walking, and then they all change colors during the fall. It's super nice.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to check it out.
McKendrick.
Something like that. I don't know.
Kendrick.
Just real quick, going back to the, because it seems like you're really passionate about the emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little more about that subject?
Yeah. So, I just like with the book, like what I'm trying to like do.
I guess
or-
first of all, just what drew your attention to that
Yeah,
topic?
to emotional. Yeah,
Yeah.
to like that subject
subject,
itself.
yeah.
Okay. I think a lot of it does have to do with what I've been through.
Okay.
You know, I feel like I've had to really learn how to manage through. You know, I tell everybody, I tell my siblings, and, you know, I even have like super deep talks with my mom and my dad. And, you know, I tell everybody there's two types of people in this world. It's those who sink and those who swim. You know, and you either learn to manage through those sucky times and find those good times in life, or you're just literally just gonna sit there. Like you're gonna sink to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah.
Overwhelmed.
You know, and I feel like there's a lot of times like where people have come to me and, you know, I don't know if it's like I don't know if it's just my persona, but people just feel this need to always like open up to me.
Yeah.
So they come and they tell me like their struggles and everything that they're going through, and you know, and I always have to tell them like, you know, just keep pushing, like keep
Yeah.
pushing forward, like keep working hard, keep, you know, gain that
Persevere.
resilience, you know. Growing up, I've always been really emotional. Like really emotional. My mom says it all the time. I was like her emotional baby. You know, I cried for everything. Everything hurt my feelings. Like
That's Greg right there.
you looked at me the wrong way and my feelings were hurt, you know.
Oh shit.
Yeah, like so growing up, I've had to really build like this callus while still learning how to love unconditionally and be open.
Yeah.
You know, not be like this cold person, you know, and still being able to understand that, you know, there's going to be shitty people, shitty times, and I still have to, you know, kind of like learn how to be open and still offer that support and that encouragement to the people around me without being like this bitter person of like, oh, like I don't trust anybody. And, you know, like
Yeah.
it's been like an experience, like
Just-
in itself, you know, like.
How would you define emotional intelligence? What do you think that means? What does that mean to you?
Emotional intelligence to me would be like knowing how to go about situations in life with a conscious mind.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like a lot of times, like when we go through things, we're really blinded by what we feel.
Emotional.
You know,
really
like
emotional.
like you sit down and it's like, well, this is the way this made me feel, and this is this, and it's like, okay, like you have to learn to kind of pull apart and be like, okay, this is the way I feel, but this is the situation itself.
Like
Yeah, be
separate-
rational
You know,
about
like,
it.
Separate
and how am I
emotions.
gonna get through this situation without, you know, entangling everything I feel about it?
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like when you do that, that's when you make decisions that you regret. You say things that you regret. You go about things and you're like, man, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had my times, like, you know, in the past before I, you know, really started focusing on myself, where I would like blow up. You know, a situation would come and I'd blow up, and then I'm like, fuck, like,
Yeah.
so how do I fix
handled
that?
that
You know,
differently.
like,
Yeah, definitely.
man, that could have gone differently.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely. I don't have a lot of them because like you said, I went through the ringer, and I'm learning how to manage it when it's coming up, and it's been through my relationship with Sarah, with my fiance, because I was really quick to just say pues vete, like me vale madre, instead of like dealing with it and like really, like you said, separating yourself from it. Like this one time, I told her that I wanted a prenup, cause whatever it is, like, you know, she says that she's not gonna do it, take everything, whatever, but in the moment when you're upset at this person, like if you make decisions on an emotion, it's always gonna be the shittiest one you can think
Yeah.
of. Like
Oh,
how
yes.
how
Yes.
harder can I how hard can I
how
fucking
harder can I come back?
yeah. So I tell her, like, you might say that right now because you can think about it, but
Yeah.
in the event that we get separated, you're gonna come for everything, and that's
'Cause of the
understandable, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I would do the same,
Yeah.
but like I'm like, let's be smart about it. Like if we do split, I'm willing to do even down the middle.
Like you're trying to just protect yourself from the emotional damage that you can do at that point. Like,
Yeah,
let's put
definitely.
Some law. Let's put some
Yeah.
law between the emotions.
Yeah, and it's crazy the way we can destroy each other, the way we
Yeah.
can build each other, and the way we can destroy each other.
Dude, very few divorces are nice.
exactly.
Very few divorces are pretty. Like, I don't think I've ever heard of a story.
Even
of,
in
like,
relationships, dog. Even like in a friend relationship, like it can be toxic. Like even though you guys aren't dating, like
yeah.
it can be toxic to the point where it's like, fuck, I don't want to be around this person no more. So, man, the human brain
Yeah, definitely.
is beautiful.
It's so powerful.
Yeah,
I
yep.
mean,
You can mold somebody, or you can, I don't know.
Destroy somebody. Too.
Yeah, dude, just break them down.
I like that topic of the emotional intelligence. Can we continue building on that?
beautiful.
Yeah. So that would you say because your mom, you said she is like psychology? She's a psychologist.
yeah, she has her bachelor's in.
What's her name?
Priscilla.
Priscilla
Yeah,
Priscilla.
Escobedo.
Escobedo. Priscilla Escobedo. Where does she practice at?
Right now she's actually a teacher. She's a teacher at Pima. She's like the head
Okay.
coordinator of 3 programs there.
Nice.
So she does have her bachelor's in human behavior, and she's getting her master's in the same thing, psychology, like human behavior with a concentration in adolescents and young
Damn.
adults.
What an interesting
her-
topic, huh?
Young
Let's
adults?
study human behavior.
No, really, yeah.
Like, let's
I
study
mean,
the way humans behave and their actions and their tendencies.
Yeah.
Don't say like you don't do that on your own.
No, but that I'm saying like that's such an interesting topic.
Yeah, but don't you do it on your own?
Yeah, but I'd be
Like,
exciting to go to class every
like
day.
at
I'd be
parties.
let's learn like
Towards
oh, yeah.
the end of my partying, I would do that a lot. I would like just sit
study
back
people?
and watch everyone like, what
Yeah.
the fuck?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's all just a mating. It's just like cockatoos, just like. And then the female approaches, and you can like do Discovery Channel narratives behind it. Like, here comes the.
I don't know, but I think it was just me.
approaching the female.
It was just me and my high brain. I was just really stoned, and I just wanted to believe that I was like really fucking intuitive. But I was just really like,
I've had those moments.
Yeah.
You're just there, like, super big.
but I'm just in the
like-
back like this.
You're just like, whoa.
that was a badass bird sound.
I'm just
dude.
in the back like this.
Okay, Greg, do you have enough energy to do a Discovery Channel follow back to me? Okay, I'll be the mate. I'll be the male just walking, just like.
We see the male.
Greg has no.
He has no energy.
He has
That
nothing
was
for us
That
today.
was good. That wasn't bad. I was like, yeah, that was good.
Emotional
Oh.
intelligence.
He was really trying.
First of all, I wanted
I
that
know.
English accent
Jackie
like
felt
David
bad for me.
Attenborough.
Huh?
Here we have the male.
Oh, you want me to have an accent?
Yes, please.
Hello.
Hello, Mike.
Hello, Mavna.
All right, we'll
You'll
leave
say
Greg out
that
of
bad,
this
that
one.
bad,
Let's continue. Here. Where are we at? Where were we at?
We're talking about emotional intelligence, and
Oh,
her
right.
mom. Her mom has
her
a
mom.
bachelor degree in
Oh, that's what I was
human
talking.
behaviors.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you if your mom is. I mean, I would imagine she's one of the biggest influences in this.
Yeah, she's honestly my biggest supporter in absolutely every little to big thing. I
Yeah.
mean, she posted this podcast all over her Facebook.
Oh shit!
She's like, everybody check this out. Like, I mean, she's one of
Thank
my
you.
biggest supporters.
How hard is it to bullshit her?
Oh,
It's really hard. I mean, but you know what? Our arguments are like, because we get along really well.
Okay.
But when we do argue, like, they're really bad.
Really?
Like, yeah, because she tries to throw like this psychological bullshit at me,
Oh.
and I'm like, no, Mom,
psychological bullshit.
I'm like, no, Mom, like that's not the way it works. Like I know what you're doing. You know, like we're both so consciously aware of what each other's doing that it's just literally like just going at it, like mind to mind.
Yeah.
Fucking mental
You know,
spark.
like yeah.
When you were younger, would you ever do something and you'd be like, what the fuck? She
Yeah.
made me do this. I was not trying to do this at
Yeah,
all.
I mean-
and your room's all clean, like the house is mapeada and everything. Like, how did I clean the whole house?
Yeah,
she somehow
she's
mind
always
fucked
been
me.
like that. Now it's,
good
I mean,
magician.
now there's not. I'm telling you, it's just like mind to mind when we fight now. You know, it's just like we just go at it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, we're just very like, no, like I'm sorry, like yeah, let's just get over it, you know. So
Yeah.
It's, at
it's
the end,
crazy
neither of
living with
you
her.
win. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, man,
there's literally just like a neutral, like
stalemate.
it's so like now our relationship is so healthy, you know. Like we do kind of go at it, but then she'll come and she's like, you know what, like. The way I went about it was wrong. I shouldn't have went about it like that. And, you know, I do apologize on my part. And I mean, at that point, it's kind of like, okay, maybe I should apologize on my side, you know,
Yeah.
like, so I'm like, yeah, like, I understand, you know, I didn't mean for it to go that way. Like, very healthy communication,
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
beautiful.
Good. Because even though she's highly educated and everything, she's still human.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because she still feels feelings. She still.
Yeah.
everything, you know. She's still your mom.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
At the end of the day.
That's a strong emotion.
Yeah,
Apparently.
you cannot break that bond, ever.
So throughout the process, how did your emotional intelligence develop?
At the beginning, like, I mean, I'm talking like years back, I would say that I saw myself as like really fragile.
Okay.
You know, like it was easy for me to break under stress. It was easy for me to back down, you know. Now, because the way I see it, you know, like even in my book, the way I'm kind of like displaying it out to my readers is, you know, it's kind of like a war, you know, and you're like this warrior that just keeps getting defeated, or you're this warrior that actually wins the battle, you know. And it's like this ongoing battle because you're always going to have to face something in life.
Like a war within yourself, you're saying?
Yeah. So, you know, years back or even like a year later, I feel like I've grown so much in the last year in that aspect that, you know, I would break very easily. You know, it seemed like every mountain in front of me was way too high to climb. You know, and now it's like I come across like these mountains in life and it's like, oh, like this isn't shit.
Yeah.
You know, like I've climbed something higher than this.
Yeah.
You know what I
Built your
mean? Like,
confidence.
and even, you know, because I feel like people in your life play a huge part.
Yeah.
You know, in that growth and that development that you're going through. And, you know, years back, I was surrounded by people that just weren't the best people. You know, they weren't very healthy. You know, their actions, their behaviors, the way they coped wasn't very healthy. You know, I was partying a lot. I went through like this party stage. And now you know, my circle's really small, but it's just a circle of so much support and encouragement. And I'm just like so happy that it's gotten here.
Okay.
You know, like I truly feel, and I'll tell everybody, the people you surround yourself with show more about you than what you can show yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Like, if I want to know who you are, bring me the people that you
My
hang
mom
out
used to
with.
say that shit all the
Same,
time.
dude.
Dime con quién te juntas de quién eres. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean, huh?
All the same.
I'm still gonna hang out with the marihuanos because I love it. Yeah, that was pretty much my train of thought behind that. And the mountains, yeah, some of them are higher, some of them are lower, but they're different terrains. Some of them might not be the same situation you face. It might be the same end, but it might not be the same situation. So like you have to go about it a different way. And that's fucking beautiful that you keep finding mountains, that you're not just camped out at this one mountain and like you're just there like fuck it, I have water, I have food, like I'm just gonna stay here. Like you keep, you know, going for that end and then
Challenging
you
yourself.
keep going to the next one and the next one.
So previously, whenever you would face one of these mountains and you would not feel like you could reach it or whatever, you know, what was the type of reaction you would have initially? Would you just kind of...
I would kind of, I mean, for a long time, especially like these last 3 years, I went through like a really deep depression, you know? So it was literally just like, I mean, I slept a lot. I had no motivation. You know, there was really nothing I would look forward to. You know, I was just going to work and just living day by day.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't hiking. I wasn't doing stuff that I like to do. It was literally just existing. You know, at that point, you're not really living anymore. So that's
you would
like,
get to this point where it's like, I can't, and then you would just like...
yeah, it's
just-
like, oh, like, it was like a very negative, like, you know, these mountains or like these obstacles in life would come. And I was like, oh, like, seriously, like, when am I going to get a break?
Yeah.
You know, like, fuck, like, you know what, I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
And
Why
I would
can't
just
it just
kind
go
of like
smooth
sit it
for you?
out, you know, like,
Yeah.
let's see when this kind of passes.
Write
like,
it out.
You know, like, let's wait. You know, I knew I wanted more out of life. I just wasn't working towards it. You know, and that's like another thing I'm also going to touch on a lot is that I feel like in this generation or like, you know, you talk to people and you get on social media and there's so many people that, you know, put these affirmations or, you know, they're like, oh, you know, I'm praying for more and I want this. Like, you can pray all you want, but if you don't put like that hard work and that hustle behind it, it's just a prayer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think at that point, like, I knew I wanted more, but I just wasn't putting in that work to get more.
I always viewed it that my one way that I viewed it coming up, it was you're in the car and running out of gas and Jesus is pushing the car. You're like, come on, Jesus, push this car. Come on, Jesus, but it's going nowhere.
Take the wheel.
Yeah, and then finally you get out of the car and you start pushing with him and you guys actually move the car. Because instead of just praying, you're actually helping and putting work into it. That's the way that I viewed it. I'm a big believer. Like I base my whole life around Christ.
Yeah.
It helped me out. It's my thing. But
It's what helped you, man.
yeah, definitely. So yeah, when I hear and like people would say like I pray a lot, but it's like, well, what are you doing on a daily basis to actually make that prayer come true? Like,
Yeah, you know, like, and I think it's just like this misconception people have, like, oh, let me pray and wait for it to fall on my lap. You know, I call
Yeah.
it like the fall on my lap generation. Like,
Yeah.
oh, well, this is what I want, so let me just wait for the opportunity to fall.
Yeah, that's not the
you
way
know?
law of attraction works.
And it's like, dude, no, like you have to go out and kind of sell yourself and be able to, you know, let people know why you deserve that.
yeah, just
You know,
become
like
a
you want
prostitute.
more.
Sell yourself.
How big? Were you gonna say?
How weak is Jesus that he can't even push a car?
Oh my god.
Well,
one thing Greg says.
Well, I mean, I in this scenario, I'm driving an F-350, so
Están pesadas.
yeah, this is a really heavy truck we're talking about here. I mean, how badass are we, me and Jesus, that we're pushing an F-350
Fuck yeah.
by ourselves?
That's tough.
So he can cure lepers, but he can't push a truck?
Well,
Up a
in this
90-degree
scenario,
gradient? No.
well, I mean, in this scenario, this guy, you know, he's helping me, and I mean, everything that I've achieved, I'm pretty much a badass. So
It's because he only
Jesus
helps.
Christ.
He only helps enough to where like you have to get out of the car and do
Yeah,
the rest.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like, yo, bro, I could easily. Move
I think
this.
he was like pushing it, but it was just really slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just using his
Two
finger,
people,
just,
it was like,
He was doing it on purpose.
just so Oscar would
To
get out.
encourage you.
Ayúdame, pues.
Yeah, definitely. It's like when you don't want to let go of one thing. It's this really simple picture. You don't want to let go of one thing, and then he's hiding like this bigger thing in the
Oh,
back.
I love.
Right.
There's a picture of that.
Yeah.
I've seen it. A little teddy bear.
So
I've
it's
seen
like
that, yeah.
once you're able to let it go,
Yeah.
and the
He
bigger
gives you
thing is
something
coming.
greater.
Yeah.
So just you were saying how you just kept getting these like bad things happening just back to back and stuff. Because I'm sure there's people who just get lucky sometimes, and it's like, oh, like stuff is spread out a little more, or you know, like all the shitty stuff doesn't happen all at once. But do you think you were mentioning that your support group wasn't that great at the time? Do you think if you had a stronger support group at the time, it would have helped, or maybe more motivation behind?
maybe, I think so. Like it would have pushed a little bit more motivation.
Yeah.
But I do feel like we get the people in our lives when we're supposed to get them.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So I feel like even if the people I have now were in my life then, I would have been the toxic person. You know, that
yeah.
kind of shut
So they would've
myself
pushed
out.
you out. They
Yeah,
would've
like they
pushed
would
you
have been
away.
like, dude, like I'm gonna kick you to the curb. You know, like
Yeah.
go kick rocks, kid. Like,
go kick rocks.
like damn, like you're so negative. Like
Yeah,
come on,
yep,
you know.
Yep.
Like you're not on the same wavelength yet.
Yeah,
Like,
you know, you just aren't there yet. You know, they've grown a little bit more, and you know, I was just a little bit more behind, and I had to learn to get up there, to be able
Damn.
to
I like
be
that
more
answer.
open. You
So
know,
it took you a little. You had to go through those things on your own to be that person
yeah.
that can then.
Add something to the
Yeah.
group
To,
instead
yeah,
of take.
and just
keep
take
taking
and like be
taking.
like this leech.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Fuck, man. Fuck that.
I think most people who have that mentality of, like motivation and a good heart. I think most of them have been through shit. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Everybody has
Definitely.
a story of stuff that they've been through. You know, whether it's like.
It's disingenuous to say that if anybody is like at the tip of top has not like it was giving to them. Like
Yeah.
I highly doubt it. Because even somebody that gets millions of dollars like inherited, he has two choices: to blow it all away or to be smart about it and invest and keep it growing. Like you know. So there's decisions and choices regardless of how good you have it or whatever. I mean, we
Yeah.
do have it pretty good though here in America.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
we get to bitch,
That's-
we get to bitch about things, you know, like they're really minimal, and shit, we got everything,
Yeah.
everything. Like
Like I don't want to drink tap water. I only want Fiji.
I want
Fiji.
Fiji water, bro. Only drink a pH balance of 8.
Alkaline water only. All right.
That's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
beautiful that we live here. I mean, you get to publish 2 books. You get to be in this podcast. We get to have this podcast. Like,
Yeah.
I get to have this place to have it in. Like, it's a fucking beautiful thing.
So let's pick up where we left off then, to continue the story where you were at, like a book.
Damn it, bro. Damn it, bro.
so-
Chapter by chapter.
So then we already
Page by
talked about
page.
how your emotional intelligence was developed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then throughout the process of the book, so you started writing about your experiences in California.
Yeah,
Right.
that was part one.
That was
Like all
part one.
that.
So what was that like? being over there?
In California, well, at the time I was about 16, 17, so I was a sophomore in high school. When we went out there, you know, we didn't have anything. We went to go live with my uncle, but he lives like in the fields of California.
Okay,
You know, like
not like in California.
no, like it was like his backyard was like orange trees and lemon trees.
Oh,
type
that's
of shit.
awesome.
Yeah,
Part of California.
and it was cool. Like the like a valley. I don't know. It's like called something.
Silicon Valley?
Valley. Like it's right between like Merced and like it's like a little town. It's
Okay.
literally called like Los Palos
Oh.
Dos palos.
or Dos Palos.
Dos palos.
Two sticks.
Two sticks?
Yeah. Like I was like, seriously, like you're moving me to this place, like,
You're
You
moving,
moving to the stick place?
like, and it was literally like a little town
Yeah.
that you could get through in like less than 10 minutes.
You like blinking it. Oh shit.
Yeah, it's like gone.
So it was an agricultural area.
Yeah,
Okay.
What about weed? They have a lot of weed.
I'm pretty sure they did.
Oh, you weren't like
Yeah, like I
conscious
mean,
about
way.
that yet.
I
just yet.
should have been more conscious about it, honestly.
Why does it smell like skunk all the time, tío?
I should have like made
Oh, no se
friends.
preocupe, mija.
Con los ojos todos rojos. No, mija, está bien, mire.
Yeah, that's funny.
But yeah, it was like a weird transition, you know, coming from, even though El Paso's not huge, it's a city, you know, and the first week living there, I was really excited. I was like, wow, like nature and birds and, you know, trees and stuff. But then after like the first week, I was like, oh my God, there's
Pinches pájaros no se callan. No mames.
like the closest mall was like 4 hours.
Oh my
I was
God.
like, you know, there was like no restaurants. They had like in the town, they had like little pizza parlors and like very rugged old school, you know,
Yeah.
like, and I was like, what the heck? So just that whole transition itself was kind of weird. The kids over there are ruthless.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, the school system is like ruthless. They were so mean to us. We had to take like a bus together. So it was me, my brother, and my sister. At the time, my brother was like really annoying. Now he's kind of cool. But back then, you know,
He's kinda cool.
Now he's 6'3". Nobody
What?
fucks
Oh,
with him. You
shit.
know, like back then he was like this little kid with a big ass head that like everybody just wanted to pick on.
His body caught up
You
with
know,
his head.
yeah, like so we would be on this bus and they would like pick on him. They would like pull his backpack off of him. They would call him like a horse rider or something just because we're from Texas. I'm like, do you guys know like
Good one.
Jesus Christ.
El Paso's
What do you
like
ride horses?
Yeah, we
Oh,
pretty
you
much
got me,
ride
man.
Mexicans over
like
here.
You got me, man.
I'm like, yeah, like it was just
Can you imagine?
Since when is riding a horse bad? That's a bad.
gonna
I would
be-
like, fuck
Hey,
yeah,
shut
ride
up, you
horses.
horse rider. Be like, good one. Come up with that one.
Now you're getting beheaded.
I would have just gone with the horse.
Now you're gonna get beheaded.
Now you're gonna get beheaded because I'm from El Paso, Mexico Juarez.
Colombian necktie.
Okay. And then
so. I mean, just over there, they're like super
cold.
ruthless. When I went over there, I was like really advanced. I didn't realize like that Texas has one of the strictest education systems.
Oh really?
Yeah, like over there, I was a sophomore taking junior, senior classes. Like their first 2 years in California are just like electives.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so I came in
have
with
fun?
like AP English and like, you know, like I
Nice.
threw it on the table and they're like, oh, well, you're going to have to be with juniors and seniors. So it was even weirder and harder for me to adapt because
Yeah.
I was in classes with people that were just kind of looking at me like, what's this pipsqueak doing here? You know, like.
I like those name drops. There's two already. Kick the Rock Sis and Pipsqueak.
She's
Those
an
are
author,
cool.
dude. She's an author. I can just imagine reading her book and be like, oh, pipsqueak. Yes. Kick the rocks.
That's cool.
So it was just like a weird transition overall. We spent a lot of time like together as a family. We were struggling a lot like financially and getting on our feet. And, you know, when we look back to it now as a family, we all laugh about it. You know, we're like, oh, remember like that Christmas that we had white rice and refrigerated meatballs? Because, you know, like now it's a joke. Now we joke about it. We're like, oh, like remember how cold it was in the morning? Like, you know, like how shitty it was. You know, me and my brother would just go. I mean, the fields went for like acres and acres. So on weekends and stuff, we would literally just like pack a backpack and just walk.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and we would just like go on adventures, you know, and he always remembers that. He's always like, "Oh,
sounds
remember when we went on adventures? Like we would swing from the barks." And I'm like, "Yeah, like it was fun, you know, like so despite like the shitty part of it all, we did get to experience a lot of like connection together.
A lot of good
You know,
times.
like
you made the best of the situation, huh?
yeah, we really did. And coming back, when we decided to come back to El Paso, it's because my mom got pregnant.
Oh wow.
With my sister, yeah.
Okay.
So my mom cried a lot and was like, "You can't, I can't have her out here. Like, like I
First
need
of all,
my own
there's no
house.
hospitals.
Like, yeah, the closest
gotta
hospital
switch
was like
sticks.
2 hours. Like, so when we came back, it's because she had gotten pregnant with my sister. And coming down, we had taken like the whole coast. So we stopped at like every beach.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so I mean, I've seen like some of the most prettiest beaches, so even with all that shittiness, it was just like, man, like I still got to experience some pretty cool stuff,
Yeah.
and like when we came back, we still struggled here. I mean, it was like to the point where we were living like in a garage, like sleeping on the floor, like, and of course now we joke about it. I tell my brother and my sister like, hey, remember when we slept on an air mattress and we'd wake up and it was like flat?
Yeah.
Like, or when we would use each other's like warmth, like, and they're
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, like,
So how old were you when you got back?
when I got back, I was 17.
17. So you did get a chance to experience like that financial struggle life to a pretty older age.
Yeah.
Because I find that, I mean, on another separate subject, people who have experienced that, once they experience success and you start making money, you have like this broke mentality, like, nah, I still need more. I need more. Like, or else this is going to run out. And you have this fear, like, oh no, if I don't make more, I'm going to go back to the times where I was struggling. Do you think you have that mentality?
I used to have that a lot. Like when, I was working as a server, I worked restaurant industry for like 7 years. So I would just pick up like all these extra shifts because I thought I was going to run out of money.
Yeah.
Like I just hated the thought of struggling.
Yeah.
And
'Cause you know what
feeling
it's
that
like.
again, like
Yeah.
feeling like I didn't have anything or feeling empty-handed. So I did worry about it a lot. Like money was a huge issue, like when I became a young adult. And
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there. Sorry. Continue.
And then like we came back and we got back on our feet. A few months later, my sister was born, so she was born like at a house, and like we were doing much better, and we had gone back to school and everything. So from here, like it got better.
Okay.
Like slowly, it was getting better. My mom had landed like a really good job, and they moved us out and into a bigger house, and that house itself. It was in Socorro. My sister like grew up there. Like we lived there for like 3-4 years. And then recently we just moved out to Horizon. So from there it did get better. I mean, there was still like some struggle here and there, but it wasn't as bad as that time.
Yeah.
I
I feel like with every family goes through that, especially when you go from having nothing to a lot, and not being able to deal with it or not knowing what to do with it, and then you go back to the struggle. Like that's
like,
something
and
pretty
it was
hard.
like a huge reality check because before this whole like that whole struggle, like we did have a lot. My mom had a really good job. Like she was, we had everything we could ask for.
Yeah.
And then we just lost everything from like one day to the next, brujeria. And like,
Saca el huevo.
like really like,
Damn.
oh, like, like, and we just lost everything. Like from one day to the next, it like just went up to air,
shit.
like, and it was just so weird how everything happened. But if there's anything that we all learned and we've all talked about it, like as a family, it really humbled us.
Yeah.
Like now that we have so much more than what we did even then, we still like are like, no, like it's okay, we're okay with this.
Yeah.
Like appreciate what we have now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a huge like.
I don't know if you mind talking about it, but what was it that it was just so sudden like that? Like,
I'm telling you, like
happen?
brujeria, like,
Really?
like, yeah. I mean, my mom had a really good job, and from one day to the next, like, she lost her job.
They just laid her off.
During this time, like, my parents had taken like a break, so my dad wasn't like home. He was like trying to come back home. He was struggling with the job. He was working like, my dad's a supervisor for like a trucking company. So he's like a dispatcher. He like watches the dispatchers and stuff. But then he was working like at a warehouse. Like it wasn't even like his
Field,
job,
yeah.
like, and it was just like weird, like just how everything happened. And it all started with like, it was little things that kind of like accumulated. They went and they like shut off our electricity.
Oh shit.
And then they like 2 days later our water. Dang. And then like by the end of the week, the landlord was like, I need you out.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and that same week, my mom had lost her job. Like, my dad had lost his job. Like, it was just so much had happened. The week after, we had, we were living, like, in this little, like, motel, like, hotel, trying to, like, get back on our feet. And then they repoed our car. Like, there was so much happening. That's why I tell everybody, like, it was just brujeria. Like, somebody just threw ojo at us and we're like, you know what, like, fuck them. We don't like them. Let's see them struggle. You know what I mean? Like, that's the next week we lost our car. We started driving. My grandma gave my mom like this truck, like this pickup truck, but it was like this rinky-dinky, like you drive it and it was like, like you could hear it clanking, like with every turn, every move, and it's just like, what the hell, we went from having 2-3 cars to having this.
Yeah.
Like we went from having like a great house to living in a hotel and moving to California. Like, it was just like weird.
But when you were young, I'm pretty sure it was like, fuck, like, don't even take me to school in this thing. Like, you didn't understand, how hard your parents were working to have all of that back, or how much they were struggling, in their brains, like, fuck, like, this fucking bullshit. But in your young mind, you're like, fuck this truck.
Yeah.
I don't want to get dropped off in this truck.
No, yeah, like, when I think about it, I always feel, like, so bad, because I would tell my dad, like, can you just drop me off, like, across the street? And he would just kind of look at me. Like, he understood, but, I could just imagine now as an adult how that made my parents feel.
Yeah.
Like, she's embarrassed to get dropped off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if I could go back, I would, like, smack myself against the head and be like, hey, like, stop being an asshole, like.
We all have those moments, though.
Definitely.
Like, I have that moment with my brother, because my brother has schizophrenia. And I remember when I was in middle school, he'd go pick me up from school, and then he would walk, because, like, he's sick. Like, he didn't know what to do, so he'd walk around and just start asking kids, like, oh, have you seen Irvin? Do you know who Irvin is? Or, like, stuff like that. And then my friends would just be like, hey, I think your dad's looking for you. And then I'd be like, oh, okay, I know who it is. Like, it's Israel. Like, he's like, and sometimes it'd be embarrassing, because, like, he doesn't know how to have a conversation, so he would just be like, oh yeah, that's my brother. Like, you watch Dragon Ball Z? Like, he'd just do stuff, and then it was embarrassing, and sometimes I'd be like, why is he picking me up? Like, why is he coming over here? And then, you realize later, you're like, fuck, man, like, I was an asshole. Like, I shouldn't have done that.
When you're little, you're fucked up.
Yeah.
You're pretty much fucked up when you're little.
Yeah.
I don't think I was. How the fuck can I put in my youth?
That was loco, dude.
Yeah, you know what? I was just.
You're a ball of emotions
out there, like. Yeah. I wear I still do wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I was just out there like fucking ridiculous.
Yeah. He would kick the Super Nintendo when we beat him.
Oh yeah, fuck losing, dude. I fucking hate losing.
I hate losing too.
I've been able to cope with it more, like, like, okay, like losing.
Fine, it's just a
part
Mario
of it.
game.
Yeah, but when I was younger, I'd fucking get upset.
Yeah.
Like, fuck Monopoly.
Me too.
Fuck
Monopoly.
Yeah, for sure. Jenga, like douche. FIFA.
Everything.
I kick the shit out of the.
Yeah, he says I can play soccer too.
He kicked the Super Nintendo. Fuck
Yeah,
that.
I was a sore loser, like, pretty bad. But then I realized it, and then I guess I got older and I started competing. Like, I was more like, oh, it's okay. But then it made me not competitive. I'm like, okay, well then I gotta find
Like,
where
too far to
in
the
the
other
middle.
side.
Yeah,
I feel similar, yeah.
yeah. So I gotta work that one out
So then,
instead of being a little bitch.
so in the book, do you focus, you get a little more into the nitty gritty of
Yeah,
the
I talk about
experiences?
like the experiences, and like I'm very descriptive in my
Yeah.
writing. So I do talk about like the cold mornings and
Yeah.
feeling the warmth of my brother and sister's body against mine, and how that was the only warmth I could feel at the time. And I just I really talk a lot about what I felt.
Yeah.
During those times.
Like,
So
you try and really put the person who's reading in that
In there,
situation.
yeah, like I want them to understand like like this is
How cold the water was when you
know
showered.
what I mean? Yeah, like
Yeah, there you go.
That's one of the beauties of writing, because I've never been a big reader. I just can't. I don't have the patience to sit there and like read a book, But when I have read books, I realize you get a lot more of that experience. Like, damn, it was a wet afternoon with the sun shining, and you know what I mean, like
The
all those
birds
specifics.
chirping
Yeah,
and
you really. Yeah, you can watch a movie, and
the
yeah,
tree
of course.
slapped against my window.
Yeah, unless you
Oh,
have that
shit.
submersive VR and surround sound, I don't think you can get that experience that you get reading a book.
And, yeah, I don't know. I just like this book I'm reading, The Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's super cool. Like Irvin, I don't really read books, but I feel like the books that I do pick to read they're really good at explaining everything they're trying to put out there. So it's so crazy that you say that you're being descriptive about it.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I was in EPCC or in high school, but that's the first thing they told us. Like when you're writing something,
Be
like
descriptive.
be really
Yeah.
into detail with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you reach that zone to be able to? Because obviously you're writing of past experiences. So how do you put yourself back in that situation, and are you able to be so descriptive of the situation? You know.
It has a lot to do with like I have to resurface it.
Okay.
You know, like I have to think back, and I'm like, okay, like let's think back to those shitty times. You know,
Yeah.
because I feel like shitty times we never forget. You know, I feel like
Yeah.
sometimes we remember the shitty moments more than the good moments.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, so but when we're trying to move forward, we have this habit of kind of like throwing it in the attic. You know, we just kind of like toss it back there. We
forget.
never go back. So I had to like go back there and really remember the way it felt. You know, how shitty it felt, and you know those nights of staying up, and you know just all these thoughts running through my head. And by doing that, by resurfacing it, it's easier for me to be so descriptive. You know, to be able to let people know like, this is what I felt, this is what was happening.
Yeah. So you're saying you're working on another book right now?
On
So
the
what is
third
this one about?
That one, the third one, I want it to be more of like a novel, and it'll be like on the whole emotional intelligence
emotional
and
intelligence,
okay.
managing through and everything like that.
And then your second one, that you're working on getting that one published, right?
My second one, it is published.
Oh, it's already published.
Yeah, but I just have an author's copy. So my second book, it's probably one of my best pieces of work.
Okay.
Like, I've read it a million times. I know it front to back, and I'm like, wow, like things I did that. Like I did that shit, you know? Like,
Yeah. Do you remember off the top of your head any lines?
that
That
I
are,
don't.
like-
I know like poems. Like I know like the order that they're in. You know, like the first one. There's a poem. One of my favorite poems. It's called Mango,
Okay.
and it's about my grandpa. You know,
Okay.
and it says, you know, it's talking about.
Can you read it to us? That'd be nice if you have it.
I don't have it.
Ah, okay.
I wish I did. I wish I had the copy. Could have read like
You came
something here.
unprepared.
I know.
Jaqueline.
Damn, that sucks. Irvin, don't be such an asshole. We want to have her back eventually. You know?
We
But-
probably should have had the book.
Yeah, probably.
Well, no. She only has the
Yeah,
author's
I just
copy.
have an author's copy.
No, the
Yeah.
second one.
We should have hacked into
But
her
that
system.
that poem itself, it's like super awesome. I'm talking about how I'm watching like his rough, callous hands peel the mango, you know, and how we're talking about life, and because that's usually how it would go, you know, like I'd be like, oh, Grandpa, I'm going through a hard time. He'd be like, bring me a mango.
No
you know,
way.
Like, all weird,
That was the
yeah.
tradition?
And I'd be like, okay, dude. He's like, come on, like, you know, sit down, like, you know, we can share this mango together, and you can tell me, you know, what you're going through. So in the poem, I do talk about like his rough, callous hands, because he was a worker, he was a mechanic, so they were always really rough, very like dirty, and you know.
Yeah.
And I talk about that, and you know, I say like, you know, as we eat this mango together, something in those lines, you know, like we're talking, and then there's a space, and it says, "Now I sit here alone, you know, eating the mango."
Oh, you still do that
You know,
sometimes?
yeah, like when I'm going through a hard time, I
Yeah.
just go buy like a
Just
bag
go
of
buy a
mango.
mango.
You know, like get some tajin. And
Damn, you took it to the next level.
I was like, Grandpa, you don't even know what this is all about.
He didn't like the tajin stuff?
No, he would just eat it like that, like
Sí,
all
le
weird, you
manguito.
know. I was like, okay.
Where's the lemon and the tahini and?
That's so
Like-
interesting that he. I wonder what his train of thought was. When
It
he
was.
doing it.
It's just like let's go get some ice cream kind of deal. like,
Yeah.
but his was mango.
Mango, yeah, and he would always tell me in Spanish. He would always tell me, I'm not good at Spanish, so I'm not gonna say
Get it.
No.
We'll
Get
translate.
it.
But he would tell me like that life is never
Nah,
that
say it in
bad
Spanish. Say it in Spanish.
with
I can't understand
because
what
it
you're
gives us
saying.
like good
yeah,
mangoes, you know.
no sé ni
like-
qué estás
Yo
diciendo.
no, yo no speak English.
¿Qué? What? ¿Qué
no,
está
it'll come out
pasando?
like super funny.
Say it. Just do it.
I don't even remember how it's said in Spanish. Come on.
Okay, say it in English then.
He would say that life is never too bad when it's giving us mangoes.
Okay.
Not too bad.
Yeah. Because as you're telling him this wrong or this bad situation, he's like, well, I mean, right now we have this sweet piece of life right here.
Yeah.
This
you
is
know,
what
and-
life has to offer for you.
And at the time, like when I was young, I would think he was crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, okay, dude, like I'm telling you like these huge issues, and you're gonna compare it to a fucking mango, you know, like what the hell?
I think.
But now as an adult, I'm like, wow, like he was literally just trying to show me like it's the little things.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's what I was about
You
to
know
say.
what I mean?
Life is simple.
Like it's the little things.
Appreciate the
Relax,
little
you know,
things.
like
Chill out. You need to talk to Sarah Leon.
She's excellent.
She's a beautiful soul, but she gets caught up in the bigger picture. She gets caught up in everything else that surrounds her, but she doesn't really focus much on the little
The little
stuff.
things.
And really, even though you're going a million miles per hour, there's a way of coping with it with that speed and slowing down, but still progressing at a good rate.
Yeah.
And it takes some time to manage
It's
that.
because Sarah's ambitious, you know, and I think that's a balance you have to find when you're an ambitious person and you have these goals that you want to reach, because you're so focused on the end goal, and it's like, no, I just got to keep working, keep going, and it's easy to forget about the little mangoes, you know, in life.
Yeah.
because you're just focused.
I definitely feel that. Like, I feel like I do, you know, I'm a very ambitious person, and I've had to learn how to slow down, you know, because I would go like 200 miles an hour and then burn myself out.
Yep.
You know, and it's like, man, like, and then that's when I would feel like those feelings of failure and disappointment, and they would come down on me so hard because I felt like I was really trying.
Yeah.
You know, and now it's like I've kind of hit the brakes and know, like, okay, like, this is what I want, but let's take it like step by step.
Get little wins.
You know what I mean?
Get the
like,
little wins.
we're
Yep.
still on the highway, but let's stop and pick some
Yeah.
fruit real quick. You know, like,
Get a mango.
Like, there's plenty of time. There's no rush. or
yeah, there's no
anything.
rush for anything.
But
And
I
it's-
think there is this sense of rush, this sense of artificial, like, we gotta do it quick.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta compete with Panchito
And,
here. Or
and
else.
you see these guys as older men with like the beautiful cars,
Yeah.
and big houses, like. But these guys are like in their late 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're in our late 20s.
Yeah.
It's like
early
it's
20s for her.
Early 20s for
Early
you.
20s.
So it's kind of hard for us to envision ourselves in that when
Yeah.
our credit scores are building up. Well, except for Greg. Greg's at an 800.
Greg's popping.
Oh,
Yeah.
you saw the
Wow.
Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, okay, I saw it on Instagram. He puts it out there like a douchebag. Oh, I haven't
Greg.
checked this in a while.
You direct messaged it to me. I mean, I had to look.
No, that's like like an awesome flex. Like, that's a hard flex. You know, like.
I'm gonna take a picture of my check and then send it to you and say LOL. LOL.
That was such a dad flex.
How is that a dad
Showing
flex?
your New
You know, it's
Balances
like a dad,
and shit.
like, no, everybody's like, oh yeah, I got my Yeezys. I'm over here, like, I got my credit scores 800.
And New Balances with some cargo shorts.
I have great credit. I have great credit, zero debt. I'm a great dad.
You're a great dad. You're building a future for your two
My,
young
my
ladies.
children
your
will not have to
offspring.
struggle with my debt.
Fucking Sarah's like your story is similar to Sarah's because she lost her grandpa and she lost her grandpa about 2 or 3 years ago and she's still she started going back to UTEP, but she had to pay back a lot of money, so she was going through that struggle as well, and now that she's in UTEP, her grandpa used to be the one taking her to UTEP and telling her,
Oh,
keep
yeah,
going to UTEP,
that's-
blah blah blah. So it kind of gets to her like, fuck, like he's not around, because this is what we shared together.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, even now, like, there's so many things because me and him shared a lot that, you know, when I accomplish things, I wish I could go and be like, hey, Grandpa.
Grandpa, yeah.
You know, like, I remember I would tell him all the time that one day I was going to write a book. You know, I'd be like, Grandpa, one day I'm going to write a book. And he'd be like, okay, like, échale ganas, you know?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, okay, whatever. Like, and I would tell
Weirdo.
him, you know, like, that I wanted to travel and that, you know, there was just so much I wanted out of life. And he would always tell me, like, wherever you go, send me a postcard. You know, and now since I was 18, I travel at least once a year. You know,
Okay.
every year since I was 18, I've traveled somewhere. And, you know, he's not here anymore, but I always get a postcard.
Oh, that's
And I have all
beautiful.
these postcards, like, on my wall that I just thumbtack.
Oh, that's
You
cool.
know, because he would tell me, like, just bring me a postcard, you know, like, don't take me with you or nothing, just bring me a postcard. I'm like, all right.
Just think of me when you're there. That's beautiful.
So, you know, I really understand where she's coming from in that sense of, like, you accomplish all these things, it's happy, but you're just like, man, I wish, you know, there's so many times where I wish it was a Sunday and I could pick up my phone, be like, hey, Grandpa, like, guess what? You know, or I would go every day during my lunch when I was at UTEP, and I would have lunch with him, and he was always waiting for me. You know, like, he'd come and he'd be like, hey, like, you know, I had lunch ready for you. I knew you were going to show up. And if I missed a day, like, because I had to stay for, like,
¿Qué pasó?
tutoring or something, he'd call me. Where are you? Are you going to come? Like, and I'm like, oh, yeah, Grandpa, on my way, you know, like. So there's a lot of that I've had to manage through.
Yeah.
You know, like, when those moments come, I've had to learn to manage through it and be like, okay, like, it's okay, you know, like, he's still with me, he's just not physically here.
Are you
No.
so what are you going for UTEP?
Right now I'm actually going to Pima, which is where my mom
Okay.
works. Yeah. I'm doing like the degree program there. I'm doing occupational therapy.
Occupational therapy,
That's nice.
which is is it? Oh no, that's physical therapy. What's occupational therapy?
Occupational therapy is the study of like helping people come back like
It's
for
basically
example,
everyday movements, right? Like how to
work-related
brush your
yeah,
teeth.
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
But I
okay.
mean, it's as far as like little things. I did yeah, like
work-related injuries
I
and
did like a shadowing, and it was
Okay.
at a like for pediatrics, so it's with kids. And it was little things like, they would tell me like, oh, look at the way he picks things up. We pick things up like this, and he would like drag his hand. Like he was literally just the drag that they had to work on. I don't think I would be able to work with kids. I'd be like, you're kind of boring.
Oh my god.
Like I want to work in a stroke
Aliviánate,
unit.
pendejo.
I want to work in a stroke unit at a hospital. And
That's crazy.
yeah,
That's
and
different.
occupational therapists are also found like in rehabs. So people that deal with like schizophrenia or anxiety or depression, and you're literally just teaching them to manage. Like manage through and wake up and have a routine and get through the day. Showering and learning how to like cook for yourself and all of that. So,
So
I think I would do
let
that
them
too.
know like this is not going away, but you can manage it.
But you can manage it, yeah.
Shit, that's crazy.
I like what you said right now about your grandpa, how he's still here even though he's not physically here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
yeah.
saw a really cool movie a few days ago. I forgot which one it was. But basically the guy was it was kind of a cheesy movie, but I like the comparison he made about a painting. He was just throwing all types of colors on the painting, on the canvas. And he's like, I think our lives are like this painting, how we each just throw a color on it and it changes colors. And even though the person's no longer here, that color then it mixes with another color. And just because the person's not here anymore doesn't mean that their influence is no longer
Present,
a
yeah.
presence, or their existence had an impact, on the next,
Or that it ended
Yeah.
there.
the
like,
rest of the painting.
Yeah.
Yeah, like after that, it was
Like it ended. No, like his stories, his legacies, his
influences,
his influences, the way that he
personality.
dealt things is still there.
yeah. I mean, even now, like when I do have my moments of like feeling down, which is very rare now. I feel so blessed to say that now it's I've gotten really good at managing through. But even when I have like those little moments, or back then, I would ask myself like, what would my grandpa tell me? Like, and he was a very like, I mean, his persona itself, he was a very strong man. Like I would go tell him all this stuff, and to me it was big issues, and he would just tell me like get your shit together. Like it's not
need to
it's
get
not that
real.
hard. Like you need to have resilience. Like you need to keep pushing. Like
Yeah.
and he would always tell me how hard life can get. And his big thing with me, he would always tell me that nothing in life was gonna come easy. And he would say like, you have to work hard.
Nothing
Like you
worthwhile.
want to travel, like you have to make sure that happens. You want to write a book, you have to make sure that happens. Like you have to go out and get it. So he was just a very like, his character was very strong. So even after he passed away, there was a lot of like values and morals he taught me that have carried with me now and has really built on the person that I am today.
That's nice.
A lot of my message that I give to other people and a lot of my support and encouragement comes from things that he taught me.
Yeah.
Things that he shared with me that now I just kind of like share with others, and it helped me. So he does play like a huge part, even though physically he's no longer here.
And you also touched up on, a huge topic of death, and we constantly talk about that because we're so scared of it, and that's so. It's natural, like the fear of death. It kind of makes life worthwhile.
You're scared.
I'm fucking. Come on, don't lie, Greg. You're fucking.
I think you're scared.
I'm
more
actually
scared than we are.
I'm actually more scared of watching my parents wither away, rather than me dying. I'm more scared of that.
Yeah.
Just because
same.
they can't, like in my head I'm like, they can't die. Like they're my parents. Like
Yeah.
that shit don't happen to my parents.
But I wanted to
it's
ask
real.
you how you went through the grieving process, what it was like for you, and what you did to be able to kind of overcome it. I guess
Yeah, I feel like death has played such a huge part in like my story, like from the time I was 9 when I had to experience that whole thing like with my sister, and we were really close, she was right after me, and every time I talk about her, I always tell everybody like she made me an older sister. I asked for her. Like I came home one day and I said I want a sister, and that's what they made, and so I feel like it's played such a huge part because even with her, I grieved that for about 10 years. You know, like it wasn't until I was about 18, 19 that I finally healed from it. You know, so when I was like healing from it, the whole thing happened with my grandpa, and it, you know, and again I was like, man, like when am I gonna catch a break, bro? Like, like I'm trying here.
But what was the process like? Was there anything you were actively doing to be able to make it easier, or do you think it was just a passing of time?
Well, like with my sister, it's really weird. I tell people this all the time. Like when I think about it now, I'm like, oh, I was such a weirdo. But you know, during that grieving time, one of my like part of the process was I would go and I would sit like at the cemetery and I would talk to her.
Oh shit.
You know, like I would like openly say like, oh hi sister, like a conversation. You know, like oh you know I'm graduating in a month. You know, Elijah, which is my brother. He just, you know, he joined a new sport. Let's see how it goes. You know, my other sister did this. And during that time, my other sister was just born. So I would go and I would tell her like, oh, you know, like Sophia just learned how to walk. You know, like you would love her. She's such a, you know, like a ray of sunshine. Like, you know, it was kind of like I was filling her in.
That's a beautiful thing.
You know,
like you're kind of like she's still here. You're talking to her.
Yeah, like, and I would go like take my coffee and my breakfast, and I'd sit there, you know, post it up right there, you know, and I would just talk to her. Like every week I would go. I mean, it had gotten to the point where I was going 2-3 times a week. Yeah. You know, and I would tell her like, you know, this is what's going on. This is what I'm going through. Like, I don't know what to do. You know, you're the only person that listens. And then I would laugh because I'd be like, well, yeah, that's all you can do. You know, like
you have zero input in this.
Like, you know, so with that was like part of my process, you know. And then when my grandpa passed away, I kind of went about it differently. I mean, at first I was, you know, I went through the emotions of it. I kind of hit like rock bottom at some point. But then at some point I told myself I had a choice. You know, I had a choice to spend the next 10 years grieving, or I had the choice to walk the path of healing. You know, and so when I told myself I had a choice, I started, you know, doing more positive affirmations towards that. You know, I had driven up to Rio Doso. That was like his favorite spot. You know, I have so many pictures growing up. You know, we were out there fishing, and his favorite casino is Inn of the Mountain Gods. And a few months before he passed away, it's crazy because we had taken a trip up there and we were passing the hotel, and he tells me, when I die, make sure you put my ashes in a machine. Like in a
slot machine?
In a slot machine. And I'm like, oh, Grandpa, I don't think you can do that. You know, like,
I would do it.
That's a little weird, dude. And he's like, no, like just, you know, when I die, just go in there and just open my jar and just throw me in the casino. And I'm like, dude, that's weird. Like people are gonna be like, bro, you just threw ashes on my machine, you know?
There's somebody on the machine. They're just like,
yeah, you know, like what the heck? So, when everything happened, I had driven up there and I had taken like a picture of me and him, one of my favorite pictures, and I burned it and I let it go over the lake.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So, you know, and when I let it go, I kind of like talked, you know, and I told him like, you know, it's not your ashes in a casino machine, you know, but you're here. You know, you're back here, like we're here together.
That's
you know,
making
like
that's making me emotional.
That's crazy.
Like, and that was like my consolation of like, okay, you're choosing this path of healing. You know, like this is it. Like you drove all the way out here. You're doing this because you're gonna heal. You know, there's no going back after this. Like you're not gonna be trapped by grief. Like you're gonna see, you know, you're gonna heal and you're gonna get over it. And I even told him, you know, when I had done that, I told him, like, this isn't me forgetting you. You know, I'm not forgetting you. I feel like, especially in our culture, it's like if you heal, you're forgetting. You know, you're forgetting your tío, you're forgetting your tía. Like, and it's like, no, like, I'm not forgetting you. So I had told him, like, you know what, I'm not forgetting you, but I need to move on. Yeah. You know, like, there's so much more to life. Like, I need to move on. Like, stay with me, but, like, I'm not going to let you hinder me. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, life goes on.
You would have wanted you to do that.
Do you think the fact that...
Oh, man, he's crying.
Do you think that the fact that you had such a good relationship with him kind of helped you a little bit? I'm a big believer that that in this world, the things that we really truly leave behind is like the memories. Like we live on through like people's memories of each other. You know what I mean? So like if I die, whatever, like Oscar and Irvin are gonna remember me. And I think what's so beautiful about it is that everybody builds relationships with different people, and so in a way you kind of have like this unique memories of your grandpa. You know what I mean? Like you have, it's like your own little piece of him that nobody could take away from you. So I think that's like how we live. Whenever we pass away, I think that we basically live through everybody else. Because everybody else interacted with you.
Yeah.
You know, like you interacted with your grandfather in ways that maybe some people didn't. So like that's yours. Like no one could take that away from you. So do you think that has something to do with like how you were able to move on?
Yeah, I think so. Like when, everything happened and, I would talk to my grandma and, I would tell her like about these moments and these memories I had. She was always thrown off by them because she's like, he was not an emotional man. But with me, like, he would get so emotional. We'd have, like, these deep talks, and we would really connect. And, even if he saw me crying, like, he would start crying. And he would tell me, like, it's because it hurts me to see you crying. And I feel like that connection, like, that bond that we had really helped me. It's reassured me that it was okay to move forward. Awesome. Like, it reassured me that it's okay. Like, you're not forgetting me. Like, let me rest.
I think that's, you said it, our culture, that's something that we need to bring back in our generation. El Día de los Muertos, where you put out a picture of this person and you put something that they liked leaving when they were alive. I think that's something that we need to bring back in our culture because we're getting away from it. If anything, we want less to do with our culture. Yeah. Like we want to oh no, like I don't mean to sound racist or anything like that, but the black culture is really with hip hop music and everything is really big, and a lot of people we want to be a part of that. Like I'm guilty of it. I love rap music. I want grills. I want the chain. I want big rims on my car. Like definitely, but I do have to accept the fact that I have a beautiful culture as well that embraces a lot of love and we don't like to forget people. And that one tradition that we have, it's not pinche Halloween, it's Dia de los Muertos, and we set that out for these people, their pictures and things that they love. And I don't know if it's Dia de los Muertos when we go to the grave to their graveyards and like we fix their crosses and the things that we put on their flowers and
like
whatnot.
Coco, dude.
Yeah, so I feel like that's something that we need to go back to. Yeah. So that we're able to give it to our children and not make them seem weird, like we're putting out their picture, like no, man, this is a beautiful thing. That we are remembering them and we remember the good times, regardless of if they were bad or whatever the case may be.
It kind of starts with us though.
Yeah.
Because like our parents didn't really do that.
They really didn't do that.
Yeah, I feel like culture plays a huge part. Like even in the whole emotional intelligence. Yeah. Like culture plays such a huge part. Like in the Hispanic culture, growing up, we're taught not to cry. I don't know. I've lost count of how many times I would cry and my dad would tell me like, you keep crying, I'm going to give you a reason to cry. Yeah. Like I didn't even hit you that hard, Like, so, yeah, like, and a lot of times, especially like with death and stuff, like the grief kind of like lingers because in our culture, it's like, well, how could you forget? Like how dare you forget? Like that's your tío or that's your grandma or that's your grandpa. And it's like, well, I'm not forgetting, but at some point you do have to heal and move on.
Yeah, have a life to live regardless.
You can't just be stuck and let it, take over you in your life. So I think a lot of it does have to do with our culture and what we were really built in. Yeah,
that's something that I would want to bring back, or not bring back, or start. Not bring back, but start.
Yeah, that'd be like Cindy's mom. She loves throwing big ass parties. My girlfriend, she loves throwing big ass parties, and she threw a Dia de los Muertos party, and she had everybody bring their like pictures of.
Yeah, that's
awesome.
That's beautiful.
Like my mom took my grandpa, the picture, it's an old picture.
Yeah, I want to reiterate. I don't mean to sound racist or anything like that.
No. But that's.
But
not
I
racist,
feel like
dude.
it's a big thing. Like, there's a lot of white boys trying to be black. There's a lot of of us, but we need to embrace our culture. Be proud of our culture as well. Like, we have a beautiful culture.
I don't think it's racist to acknowledge that certain cultures have things about them.
That are pretty cool. Yeah,
black people generally have hip hop. It was probably created by them, like
right? Yeah, it was.
And it's a badass thing. Like we have enchiladas and tacos, and they're fucking delicious.
It's just a different culture, and where I grew up, there was a lot of Hispanic influence, but I didn't even sway toward the Hispanic or towards the Caucasian or white culture. I wanted to be a rapper.
I wanted to have an afro when I was like 10.
I wanted to have earrings. I wanted. Yeah, I wanted to be.
Is that true?
I don't know.
I wanted to have a
Yeah,
girl.
I mean, my
I wanted to
brother's
wear
like
glasses.
that. My brother is like very, at some point growing up, I told him like, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" And he's like, "I want to be a rapper." I'm like,
Fuck yeah.
"What the
Gift
fuck do you
rapper?
mean?" And he'd wear the chains. He's gotten grills before.
Oh yeah.
I have
want
pictures of him with like a gold tooth and like I'm like, dude, what's your problem? Like he even changed like the way he talked, like his slang and his lingo, like
He's getting all
and
hood.
I'm like, dude, like he would talk to us and we would all just look at him like
Este güey qué?
my dad would be like, no seas mamón.
That's typical dad. Cálmala, ya estuvo. Ay, güey.
No, but fucking.
funny.
I think nowadays, since the whole culture thing is so hot, like like you say anything about race, and it's just like, oh, fucking racist.
Yeah.
We've gone away from appreciating our differences. Like we're not all the same,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all have been brought up differently. I mean, you have each your individual stuff, and I think we need to appreciate that. Like back in the day, I don't know, remember watching Sesame Street when it was shot like in New York, and then like they would bring in like hip hop, and then it would be like people dancing, and it's like los negritos están like dancing the hip hop también, and then like you have like the Mexican kids.
I don't remember that
You
episode.
don't remember? I don't know if that's what maybe it wasn't exactly, but I just mean there was more openness to the differences. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like it's okay.
Right.
Like it didn't matter. It
Well-
didn't matter if it was only whites or if it's only blacks. Like it's like, oh, how come you don't have a diversity? It's like
Well,
doesn't.
That's what
We
was
didn't
nice
look at it
about,
that
like,
way
that show Arthur.
What happened?
because it was just
It was
animals.
a bunch of animals, so at the end they were all animals.
I think you
But-
knew which ones were the
But
white ones.
they were.
Buster was clearly
Yeah,
white.
he was clearly white.
Yeah,
Arthur was
extremely
clearly
white.
Hispanic.
Clearly.
Arthur was
Francine was
Hispanic.
African American, I believe.
Francine?
Yeah, because they
Yeah.
would celebrate Kwanzaa.
Oh my God, that is kind of racist now that I think about
Why?
it.
No,
Yeah,
but that's the thing is that you would forget. Like it's not like you sat there every day. Like, oh, that's the black girl.
Black people celebrate.
And there's the white guy.
Isn't
like,
Kwanzaa a Jewish thing?
I believe so.
Well, then why would it be black people?
was because
Oh shit! Yeah, I'm sorry. No, Kwanzaa. No, you're talking about Hanukkah, brother.
What's Kwanzaa?
It's an African.
it's an it's an
I
African,
believe. Don't quote me on that.
I think
Don't stop following us because I don't know my Arthur
yeah, because
trivia.
we're not cultural. Yeah,
I haven't
Damn,
kept up with my
fuck.
Arthur trivia.
Jackie, is there anything else you'd like to talk about today that we didn't bring up already?
I don't think so. I think we touched on a lot of
You went
a
hard.
lot of different points.
I know,
you
you-
It
I
went
like
really
that.
deep. Like
yeah, good. We
so I
like
think
that.
This is super cool.
Yeah,
that
we
we've
like
been able
that.
to touch
Keep
on so
being
many
yourself.
Yes.
Keep being
aspects.
yourself. Yeah.
That was awesome.
Sweet.
Great.
I do want to apologize. Like, if it looks like I was falling asleep, it's just that I don't know. Really.
You feel like
You're highly
but
sedated.
I was listening to everything you guys were saying. I'm highly
I wanna
sedated.
be sedated.
Yeah.
Get me to the party. Oh.
Is there anything you want to plug, Jackie?
Your book.
don't have
Anything
to.
I want to what?
Plug
Plug.
in
Plug?
like your Instagram,
Give
Facebook,
yourself a shout out, basically.
book.
Oh, give
yeah,
myself a
yeah.
shout-out.
Give yourself a shout out. What else are you working on? Everything.
Jackie.
Yeah, I mean, you guys can follow me on Instagram.
Instagram.
It's J. Well, a lot of people try to like pronounce it all together, but it's literally just J. Caris Núñez.
Jake Caris.
Yeah,
Can you
it's
spell it out?
literally my first letter of my name,
J.
my middle name,
Your middle name. Okay.
like half
J.
of my middle
Caris
name,
Núñez.
and then Núñez.
Okay.
But so many people try to like pronounce it like Jaqueline Núñez. I'm like, what's
Jaqueline.
wrong with you?
Jaqueline.
Like,
Jaqueline.
it's literally
There's actually a
just
good
J.
rapper name.
Caris Núñez.
Jacaris.
Like,
Hey, Jacaris. Hey,
Jacaris.
Jacaris.
I'll put it on the description.
Hey.
Everything you mentioned right now, I'll put it on the description. What about access to your books? Would you want me to add that as well?
yeah, I mean, Tragically Beautiful is on Amazon. My second book, even though it's my best piece of work, it's never. I'm literally a button away from like publishing it out to the
Okay.
world. So it's not really like there. But I am working on a third book. And I mean, if anybody wants to follow me on Instagram, I post some pretty cool hiking pictures.
Hey, so Instagram is your main source.
Well,
Okay.
Instagram and Twitter.
Twitter?
You know, because Twitter I do post like my daily affirmations, you know,
Okay,
like
awesome.
I post like my little motivational things to keep people going. I post my pictures on there too. Facebook, don't add me. It's just family, you know.
Yeah,
Those are, I keep that.
Where you post your stuff
It's a
and
whole
the whole
different
family is
private
like,
life.
a whole different thing.
There you go.
Yeah, keep being yourself. Keep being yourself. Keep pushing forward. You're really young and you only have way more to go. So yeah,
we
keep
say
being-
like we're todos viejillos.
well, not even that, but she's been
through stuff.
She's been through something that I had gone like later on in my life. So
Yeah.
Just keep being yourself.
Yeah. Well, it's always nice to meet young people who
Definitely.
are going through struggles, but are you're finding a way to cope and stuff.
It's
So always
motivational to
amazing.
others. I'm sure your
There's
story
A lot of
will.
adults who probably got
Will
the same
motivate
things that
people.
you have. Or just
Yeah, there's adults that are
Yeah.
going through it. They're going what you're going through
can't.
right now,
They
Right
just
now.
and they're like in their 30s.
Yeah.
and they can't.
Just imagine when I'm 30.
Damn,
I'm gonna be powerful.
fucking E.T. the hip hop preacher. Better watch
Whoa,
out,
what
camarada. Eric Thomas, you know who Eric Thomas
Oh, I
is?
thought you just made up
You know
a
who
hip
Eric
hop
Thomas
name.
Yeah.
is? Exactly, she knows what's
I thought
up.
you made up a hip hop name. I was like,
No.
that's pretty dope. E.T. the hip hop preacher.
Eric Thomas, he's good, man. He has daily Mondays motivations. Like, thank God it's Mondays. Yeah, it's good. Anyways,
All right,
All
all
right.
right.
And you guys can always follow us on TikTokies and Instagram. Everything will be in the description. We'll see you guys there. Make sure to click the subscribe button if you haven't already, and turn on those bell notifications so you guys know when we upload. Let's do it. Let's do it. Oh, man.